decision concerning journalism professor Yusuf Kalyango. Biden plans to unveil new legislation without the support of the GOP. And in sports, see which OU baseball player is gaining MLB attention. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening, and welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting Southeast Ohio. I'm Sarah Donaldson. The Ohio University Board of Trustees voted unanimously this morning that a professor found to have sexually harassed two female students should be fired. The board rejected a recommendation by a special committee of the Faculty Senate, which said that journalism professor Yusuf Kalyango should keep his tenure and be reinstated as a full faculty member. This is the second time the special committee had made such a recommendation. The first report was in late December and got leaked to the media, which triggered backlash by students and others. The board said in its final decision it was clear based on the majority of evidence that Kalyango had sexually harassed the two women, both former students. The board, which is not in charge of personnel, directed Ohio University President Dwayne Nellis to fire Kalyango. Students at Ohio University who are hard of hearing have had troubles getting accommodations this year for online classes. WOUB reporter Will Price reports how a thread on Twitter jump-started a change at the university.
Earlier this semester, Jilly Anderson hit her breaking point. The junior took to Twitter to vent her frustrations as a hard-of-hearing student struggling to receive accommodations from her professors.
If there's like an asynchronous lecture, sometimes they won't have captions, and if they do, they're not that great.
Anderson doesn't need traditional accommodations, for example, ASL interpreters, because she has sensorineural hearing loss, making it hard to hear higher-pitched sounds. Anderson says the lack of captioning has caused her struggles in discussion-based classes.
If my professor asks a question, she won't type it, and then they expect me to go into breakout groups and remember. It's like, I don't even know, like, I couldn't tell you what we're talking about right now.
This bill is something that I am very passionate about.
Enter Elena Tartle. Tartle saw the thread Anderson created on Twitter and quickly got to work on a bill for Student Senate, where she serves as the chief of staff.
I actually wrote the bill in one night, like within 2 hours. I did a little bit of research, and I think it's just because like I have my own experience with that.
The bill focuses on ensuring accommodations for hard-of-hearing students on OU's campus, like closed captions and access to notes. But Tartle hopes it can create a more open environment for all students dealing with disabilities.
It's not like, okay, like this student has a required accommodation that I have to abide by. It's more like just creating those inclusive practices to start with.
Any student in need of accommodation should contact Student Accessibility Services. For WOUB, I'm Will Price.
Director of OU's Student Accessibility Services, Christina Perez, says she encourages professors to offer reminders to students to work with her office, if necessary. Ohio University started hosting COVID-19 vaccination clinics this week in Athens for any OU student who wants to be vaccinated. A direct allocation of vaccines from the state to Ohio colleges and universities made these clinics possible. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has emphasized the importance of college students getting the vaccine, citing young people's increased chance of carrying and spreading the virus. The clinics featured the Pfizer vaccine, which requires 2 doses spaced 21 days apart. The university expects the free clinics to run April 12th through April 23rd. Now, let's take a look at your local weather with Erin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm forecaster Erin Ashley bringing you today's weather. If you look right here, right now in Athens, it's a temperature of 75 degrees, partly cloudy skies, generally very pleasant temperatures outside across our entire region, with receding clouds as we head into the night. Winds come from the south direction at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Across the region right now, we see very mild temperatures starting right down here in 80 degrees in Ironton all the way to Ripley, 79 degrees. And if you head north of our region, going to be a little bit chillier, but still very mild, 74 in Newark and 73 in Cambridge. And if you look at the headlines for the next few days, we are going to continue to see mild temperatures, but the weekend will bring some showers. Will there be a threat for thunderstorms? Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Erin. The West Virginia House of Delegates shot down a proposal to reduce the personal income tax at the expense of increasing other taxes. The House unanimously voted today to reject the bill after it passed in the Senate on Wednesday. The Senate's version reduced the personal income tax, but increased the consumer sales tax, among other taxes. House Speaker Republican Roger Hanshaw told reporters he and his members aren't opposed to reducing the personal income tax, but called the Senate's plan reckless. The income tax proposal is now in doubt as the West Virginia legislators' 60-day regular session ends tomorrow at midnight. Meanwhile, West Virginia Republican Governor Jim Justice signed several other bills into law today. The varied new legislation includes a reduction of taxes on arms and ammunition manufacturing, establishing a new intermediate state court, and expanding the use of telemedicine to all medical personnel. And a West Virginia nonprofit is dealing with the theft of millions of dollars in federal funding. A former employee of the River Valley Child Development Services is charged in connection with the theft of over $4.7 million. According to WSAZ, 68-year-old Ruth Phillips, a native of Chesapeake, Ohio, worked as the Director of Business and Finance at RVCDS from 1986 until 2020. Phillips allegedly opened a bank account under the name RCVDS without permission from the organization. She listed her home address on the bank account and used it to knowingly convert funds to her own account. Biden is gearing up to push through his next big reform, but without bipartisan support. The president has also begun a foray into the possibility of adding seats to the Supreme Court. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
We were just trying to be scientists.
There's a playbook, and it was written by men.
You get used to being invisible.
Being left off an email, not being invited to a collaboration where you're the clear expert.
It was bullying.
How many great discoveries have just been lost to us because we didn't have the eyes to see?
Picture a scientist on Nova.
On Masterpiece.
The Norwegian forces are stalling. The king and the government are fleeing north, waiting for the Brits to come to their rescue.
Oh, God.
We can't just sit quietly and watch Hitler take Europe.
The Germans will find a way to get their hands on the Crown Princess.
They don't even know we're here. They have spies everywhere. You must leave.
Atlantic Crossing on Masterpiece.
Masters of stealth. Leopards are solitary creatures, but this is no ordinary leopard. She is a mother, a force of nature, protector, provider, and teacher. And in this African adventure, she'll do whatever it takes to preserve her legacy.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow Vintage Las Vegas, Hour 1. We're looking back at Roadshow's second trip to Sin City.
I made a very good investment, didn't I?
You did.
Wonderful.
Oh my God. I'm stunned.
Wager a guess on which items changed in value since 2007? Find out next time on Antiques Roadshow Vintage Las Vegas, Hour 1.
It's the next big item on President Joe Biden's agenda, infrastructure, and now it's the next big debate on Capitol Hill. Britt Conway reports Biden wants bipartisanship, but might not have it again.
It's a debate worth some $2 trillion. President Joe Biden's infrastructure plan. which covers roads, bridges, water systems, technology, climate-related measures, manufacturing, research and development, and the caregiving economy. But the bill has prompted criticism over its size.
It looks more like a $2 trillion tax hike plan.
And over Biden's plan to pay for it in part by raising the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. It's mostly from Republicans, but some centrist Democrats, including West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, are pushing back too. But most Democrats are on board.
It's going to benefit a lot of communities that have been forgotten.
And some say Biden should spend more.
We need to go way higher.
Not likely to happen given the stark divide already.
Another purely partisan exercise. I think it's a big mistake for the administration.
But the administration is emphasizing Biden wants bipartisanship.
Cares about what members of the Senate and the House and the public think.
Our focus is on engaging with Democrats and Republicans.
But the Senate parliamentarian has suggested the Senate could use a procedural shortcut known as budget reconciliation to get this bill through without Republicans. The same process used last month to pass the COVID-19 relief bill.
I think we're here to do what's right, not necessarily what's easy.
But there hasn't been a final ruling on the matter yet. I'm Britt Conway reporting.
The final decision could mean Biden and future presidents with a majority in both houses would have the ability to push legislation through Congress along straight party lines. Elsewhere, the White House's latest move is seen as the first step in a possible Supreme Court expansion. A new commission will weigh the political pros and cons of restructuring the nation's high court. A 6-month study will examine the impacts of adding seats to the Supreme Court or instituting term limits for its justices. President Biden seeks to fulfill a campaign promise he made to reshape the court amid pressure from activists. The pressure is the result of 3 conservative justice nominations from former President Donald Trump, including the recently confirmed Amy Coney Barrett. Following the death of Prince Philip, one of Great Britain's national icons and the husband of Queen Elizabeth II, President Biden offered his condolences to the late prince's wife.
Jill and I and the entire administration send our condolences to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on the loss of Prince Philip. He was a heck of a guy. He, it was his lifetime of service to the United Kingdom and the whole Commonwealth was visible to everybody for a long, long time. And his bravery serving in World War II, as well as his being a champion of the environment, as well as the charitable things he set up. So we really do express our condolences for extraordinary life that was led by the Prince, and I think he's going to be missed, particularly in the United Kingdom. With 99 years old, he never slowed down at all, and which I admire the devil out of.
Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, died at the age of 99 earlier today. How America could still struggle health-wise following the COVID-19 pandemic. That story's still ahead.
Pleasant skies will be interrupted by weekend showers and a potential thunderstorm. But what's the likelihood of this thunderstorm bringing severe weather to our region? This and more with local stocks.
Who's our president? Trump's our president! March for Trump!
They stormed the Capitol.
They were hostile. They were venomous that their country somehow was being taken away from them.
And plotted to kidnap a governor.
A terror plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
And so you think the guys were planning to arrest her?
It was going to be a citizen's arrest. Frontline and ProPublica investigate the rise of far-right extremism. Tune in or stream starting April 13th, 10, 9 Central, only on PBS.
Last night was a tragedy.
Akai Gurley was shot and killed by police officer Peter Liang. The charges are manslaughter in the 2nd degree. As a Chinese officer, they threw him under the bus.
My nephew's life was taken.
100,000 Chinese Americans come out.
What do you want?
It is not because he's Asian that we're going after him. We were going after that institution that killed Akai.
Down a dark stairwell,
Monday, April 12th at 10, 9 Central on Independent Lens.
We were just trying to be scientists.
There's a playbook, and it was written by men.
You get used to being invisible.
Being left off an email, not being invited to a collaboration where you're the clear expert.
It was bullying.
How many great discoveries have just been lost to us because we didn't have the eyes to see?
Picture a scientist on Nova.
An American Experience.
We've got a guy barricaded in a cabin,
armed to the teeth.
He's got his family in there with him.
Federal judge wanted him to come to court, and he was refusing to do that.
FBI agents surround the cabin.
We were being hunted. That's how it felt.
At that point, there was a shootout.
When it was all said and done, Sammy and Vicki Weaver were dead.
Ruby Ridge, An American Experience.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm forecaster Erin Ashley. Let's look at the hour by hour for tonight. At 8 p.m., it's going to be 71 degrees as skies will begin to clear. 67 degrees at 10 p.m. with steady winds, but overall going to be a very pleasant night after that. 62 degrees at midnight. Tonight in Athens, a low of 55 degrees with clear skies. Very cool temperatures, very calm weather. Going to be a very beautiful night outside today. Winds come from the southeast direction at 0 to 5 miles per hour. Generally, the lows around this area and the region will be from the low 50s to the high 50s, with Athens 55. The east going to be higher, 57 in Marietta and New Martinsville. The hour by hour for tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. is going to be 55 degrees. It's going to be pretty humid starting off the day, but as we head into later on in the morning, it's going to be 10 a.m. It's going to be 63 degrees, where winds will begin to strengthen, and around noon is where you're going to see clouds generate, bringing in that potential thunderstorm. Tomorrow in Athens, high is going to be 74 degrees with the potential for thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening due to that humidity and the cloud coverage that will appear. Winds come from the south direction, 5 to 10 miles per hour across the region tomorrow. Going to be in the high 70s, low 80s for the entirety of the region, with the higher temperatures to the east and the lower temperatures over here to the west. And if you look at the visible satellite right now, you're going to see that across our region, it's going to be partly cloudy, but you're going to see this system right here bringing in a lot of clouds that you will see right here. The severe weather risk tomorrow is going to be marginal for the entire area, so be prepared, plan accordingly. This will appear tomorrow around 2 p.m. and into the evening, so plan accordingly. The jet stream will bring in those systems of low pressure, as you can see right here. The stationary front will develop into an advanced occlusion tomorrow. That will bring the highest potential for that low pressure system. That will be the highest intensity for that low pressure system that will develop. And then heading into Sunday, you can see that that occlusion has moved through and we are in for some pleasant weather starting next week. As you can see by the 7-day forecast, 79 degrees will be the high for tomorrow with that chance of severe weather. Sunday, 20% chance of rain, 65 degrees. Monday, temperatures will warm back up to 74, and on Tuesday, it'll be 68 degrees. Wednesday, it'll be 64 degrees, and then on Thursday and Friday, we will begin to see another potential for precipitation, around 20% for both Thursday and Friday, with temperatures being as high as 63 degrees and 64 degrees. Back to you, Sarah.
A leading health expert is warning about a possible tsunami of chronic diseases and deaths after the COVID-19 pandemic is over. So what can be done? He says there's still time to change course. Mary Maloney has the latest.
A somber prediction. The U.S. will be on the verge of a wave of chronic health conditions and deaths post-COVID-19.
As the pandemic hopefully recedes, now that we have vaccination, it's going to uncover this problem that was already there to begin with.
That's according to this report written by Dr. Robert Califf, former commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. He says we can expect a rise in heart disease, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes, and says swift and comprehensive action is needed to avoid this incoming tsunami.
And it's not just cardiovascular disease, it's cancer and kidney failure and chronic lung disease.
Califf says the U.S. was already dealing with an increase in deaths from cardiovascular disease, like strokes. He says these deaths, when added to the deaths caused by the coronavirus and drug use, could cause a steep drop in the average U.S. life expectancy by as much as 3 years.
Prior to the pandemic, the health statistics in the U.S. have been deteriorating for a number of years, with an actual decline in life expectancy, which has never been seen before in the history of the United States.
Califf says possible solutions include universal health care, better sharing of data, and real-time tracking of chronic disease. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mary Maloney.
The mental challenges and heightened stress that have accompanied many during the pandemic are only adding another challenge for those with chronic illnesses. The CDC says youth sports and after-school activities appear to be causing COVID-19 clusters, even as the United States continues its vaccination push. Steve Nannis takes a closer look at how experts say you can keep your kids safe.
Youth sports may be one factor fueling the latest spread of COVID-19. The CDC now says youth tournaments and extracurricular activities are creating clusters where coronavirus can spread among children.
We're working to facilitate increased testing that is happening on the ground in the context of youth sports.
Health officials say as kids continue to play indoor sports like basketball, hockey, and wrestling, it's causing an increase in COVID-19 cases in some parts of the U.S.
We are seeing a higher proportion of younger people who are getting ill and unfortunately getting hospitalized.
In Florida, the CDC reports the virus was linked to high school wrestling tournaments in December, where 38 people were infected. And in Minnesota, officials there say the B.1.1.7 variant, first found in the UK, spread through one county where at least 68 cases were linked to youth sporting events.
School sports, particularly team sports, which people engage in close contact without masks. I think that is what is explaining these surges of cases in young individuals.
So what do you do if you have kids in sports? The CDC recommends minimizing the time spent indoors and reduce the amount of time players spend in close contact with each other. For today's Health Minute, I'm Steve Nannis.
Health experts also recommend having children play outdoors whenever possible and not sharing water bottles. The B.1.1.7 COVID variant was originally found in the UK and is about 50% more infectious than any other strain of the virus, according to researchers.
Hi, I'm Curtis Fader, and the soccer team and the Ohio baseball team both took the field this weekend to go and try to get a victory. Find out more when Newswatch returns. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
An American Experience.
We've got a guy barricaded in a cabin,
armed to the teeth.
He's got his family in there with him.
Federal judge wanted him to come to court, and he was refusing to do that.
FBI agents surround the cabin.
We were being hunted. That's how it felt.
At that point, there was a shootout.
When it was all said and done, Sammy and Vicki Weaver were dead.
Ruby Ridge, An American Experience.
Meet Oliver Sacks, the doctor, the writer, and the man.
Much of my life has been spent trying to imagine what it's like to be another human being.
His great gift was storytelling about the human condition in a medical context.
He would tell these stories so well that people who are left out are storied back into the world.
For his story, look for the acclaimed Rick Burns film, Oliver Sacks, His Own Life.
And we're beginning to get somewhere.
On American Masters.
Masters of stealth. Leopards are solitary creatures, but this is no ordinary leopard. She is a mother, a force of nature, protector, provider, and teacher. And in this African adventure, she'll do whatever it takes to preserve her legacy.
We were just trying to be scientists.
There's a playbook, and it was written by men.
You get used to being invisible.
Being left off an email, not being invited to a collaboration where you're the clear expert.
It was bullying. How many great discoveries have just been lost to us because we didn't have the eyes to see?
Picture a scientist on Nova.
Welcome back to Newswatch. I'm Curtis Fader. The Ohio soccer team played Kent State yesterday at Chesterfield, trying to snap their 4-game losing streak. Their last win against those same Golden Flashes 3 weeks ago. Let's see if history repeated itself. The Bobcats have struggled keeping opponents from scoring, giving up at least 2 goals a game since starting goalkeeper Sidney Mallon went down for the year. This match, however, was a different story. Less than 10 minutes in, Abby Townsend decided to take matters into her own hands, or shall I say feet, and sent in a laser from 30 yards out to put the Bobcats ahead. The wind and rain picked up in the second half, and that made holding on to the lead increasingly difficult for Ohio. Despite a valiant effort from Kent State, they could not find an equalizer, as Ohio held on to win it 1-0. The Bobcats will look to finish the season strong as they celebrate Senior Day on Sunday against Buffalo. The Ohio baseball team looks to go above 500 tonight as they face Eastern Michigan in the first of a 4-game weekend series. WOUB Sports' Brian Kerb has the story on Bobcats pitcher who's received high praise lately.
Joe Rock has gained major league attention throughout his time at Ohio. On February 26th, the junior southpaw really showed off his true potential as an MLB prospect with a 7-inning no-hitter on a frigid day.
I didn't really want to think about it and jinx myself, but going out there last inning and seeing ground ball after ground ball was a good feeling.
Rock is currently ranked the 56th overall MLB draft prospect according to MLB.com, and for good reason. Rock has a fastball that sits in the low to mid-90s but is clocked in at as high as 97 miles per hour. This season, Rock has a 0.95 ERA in 38 innings of work over 6 starts.
He's one of the top left-handed pitchers in the country for a reason, and he's our horse, and I expect Joe to give us that opportunity every Friday night going forward into the spring.
Rock's talent is setting him up for a professional career, and it is also giving Ohio baseball some national attention along the way.
It feels good, to put OU on a map and give younger kids the opportunity to see that you can come to a smaller school and still get noticed.
From freshman year to junior year, Rock has improved his game so much that he has a legitimate shot at getting his name called in the MLB draft in the near future.
Joe's grown up in the last 3 years. He's matured a lot since his freshman year. And, I don't really get involved too much talking to him about, what teams are talking to him. I think he's doing the discussions enough with his family and through the Major League Baseball teams themselves.
Reporting in Athens, Brian Kerp, WOUB Sports.
The game today is currently underway with Ohio up 4-3 in the bottom of the 6th inning. Ohio softball hit the road to Toledo for a doubleheader against the Golden Rockets today. It was like a home run derby for the Ohio Bobcats in Game 1, with 3 of them hitting 2 home runs each. But their efforts were not enough as Toledo came out swinging with 5 runs in the 2nd and 3rd inning and kept pace to drop Ohio to 500 on the season. Game 2 did not look any better for Ohio in Game 2 as they gave up 6 runs in the first 2 innings, but they've turned it around, and in the 7th inning, they're up 9-7 on Toledo. A lot of action to keep track of, but that's it for sports. Back to you, Sarah.
And if you like summer sports, you'll love this new job offering from an online gambling site. The casino review site Bonus Finder says it needs someone to be its MLB professional food tester. The chosen person will get paid $500 to eat hot dogs and watch baseball at major league stadiums. You must be at least 21 years old for the position, but the only qualifications are loving baseball and the ability to critique the quality of a hot dog. If you think you can handle that, you can apply for the job on Bonus Finder's website through May 2nd. And now let's take one last look at your local weather with Erin.
Thank you, Sarah. If you look right here, I'm just going to remind you about that severe weather risk that you're going to experience tomorrow in our region. The entirety of this region, as you can see in this green right here, is under a marginal risk for severe weather tomorrow afternoon and over into the evening. Plan accordingly. Plan accordingly. Tomorrow in Athens could be a high of 79 degrees with that potential for thunderstorms appearing in the PM. Afternoon clouds will develop after around noon, and that evening is going to be very humid, so that is the perfect stirring pot for a severe thunderstorm, so be very careful and plan accordingly. Winds come from the south direction at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's take a look across the region. It's going to be very warm tomorrow, and then across the entire week it's going to be warm with a chance for rain later on. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you.